I haven't had the best experience with Timex watches. They've not been awful, don't get me wrong, but I've owned about 6 Timex watches now and they've all been a bit meh. I've tried a chronograph, a field watch, a dress watch, and even a diver. And all of them have just left me feeling a little bit underwhelmed. I do appreciate that these are low-cost watches, so, you shouldn't expect the world from them, but when a basic QC issue like this is on the dial, for me, that's just unacceptable. And boy oh boy, have I been slated for saying that I don't like Timex watches. I don't think this guy knows what he's talking about. This dude's takes are always crap. Timex doesn't suck, you do. And stop reviewing watches because you don't make sense to me. Now, don't get me wrong, I appreciate the passion, I'm a big boy, I can take a few insults, but it doesn't change the simple fact that I don't think Timex offers good enough quality, and a lot of their designs are just a little bit stale. However, I recently met up with Ben from Ben's Watch Club. We played a little bit of golf, we had a burger, and we talked watches. And Ben pulled out a handful of his best Timex watches in an attempt to change my mind. And I've got to admit, some of them were pretty nice. So I decided to buy my favourite one that he showed to me, and give Timex one last shot at redemption. If this is your first time here, hello, my name's Kieran, welcome to Top Tier Ticker, I hope you're having a good day. I'd love for you to hit the subscribe button and join our little community. So, the reference number for this one is TW2Y12200. The model name is Q Timex Continental. The retail price is £145 here in the UK, however I paid £105 for this one from a grey market dealer. This one comes in your standard cardboard watch box, Timex logo on top, pull away the top to reveal the watch sat on a big velvet pillow. So here it is, the Q Timex Continental GMT. Now the reason this one caught my eye so much is because of how the GMT operates on this watch. It's a bit different to usual. You see, where most GMT watches feature a fourth hand in the center that you use against either the chapter ring or a bezel to track your second time zone, the Timex does not. After almost 5 years of collecting watches, I'm yet to find a GMT that's stayed in my collection. There's just something about having 4 hands on the dial that I just don't gel with. I just think there's a bit too much going on. But there is a luxury GMT watch that I've been eyeing up for a number of years now. IWC makes a Spitfire model that actually features a GMT complication underneath the dial. There's a cutout on the dial, similar to a regular date complication. However, this cutout displays the second time zone within. And for me, this is just so much cleaner and doesn't complicate the dial too much, but you still get the second time zone functionality, which I do think is super useful. And moving back to the Timex, that's exactly what this watch delivers. In fact, the dial design and layout is very similar to the IWC Spitfire. I'm not going to go as far as saying Timex copied IWC with this design, but there's certainly some similarities there. And that's no bad thing, by the way, because as mentioned, the IWC is a watch that I've considered adding to my collection on a number of occasions. To operate the GMT, you simply pull out the crown to the first position, rotate the crown downwards, and you can set your second time zone within the cutout at the 6 o'clock. This isn't a locked GMT ring, so you can set this GMT to half-hour time zones too. That does mean that getting it perfectly aligned is a little bit tricky, but at least the functionality is there. Also, you change the date by moving the crown in the opposite direction. Of course, this is a quartz movement. As usual, Timex doesn't specify who makes this movement or what country it's from, but after removing the snap-on case back, I found this movement is made by Ronda, who is typically a Swiss-made manufacturer. However, this movement states that it has Swiss parts, but it's made in Thailand. Oh, and it also features a Japanese battery, so this one has a lot of different passports. Plastic movement holder as usual with Timex, but there's nothing to complain about here. Ronda makes some good movements, the Japanese make some good batteries, we're all good. Of course, the design here is exceptionally sporty. They're going after that PRX look with the flat case and angled lugs, and this is an integrated strap watch. The lug width here is 12mm, that's the size of the small piece of steel that sits within the lugs, and the actual rubber strap meets the case at 21mm. I'll give Timex credit for a very smooth transition from case to strap here. It's a clean silhouette that I do appreciate. On wrist, I think this watch is going to make a lot of people happy. Case diameter comes in at 38.5mm, case thickness is only 8.5mm thanks to the use of that quartz movement, and the lug to lug including those fixed steel connectors is 47.5mm. The watch does wear rather flat because of the flatness of the case, but the footprint is still manageable even on a smaller wrist like mine. The rubber strap conforms to the wrist nicely, nicely with this one. And because it's a tropic style strap, you get adjustment holes from top to bottom. There is a taper to the strap here from 21mm at the lugs as mentioned to 17mm down at the buckle. And the buckle is made from stainless steel and is signed with the Timex logo. Polishing is a little bit of an odd choice given that the majority of the case is brushed, but that certainly isn't a deal breaker. Case finishing is actually pretty good here. I'd say it's on par with most other big brands under $500-ish, but you'll certainly find better case finishing on most micro brands. The crown is impressively signed with the Q logo, which at this sort of price, you maybe wouldn't expect from Timex. Seiko are guilty of not doing it, for example, but fair play to them for doing it. Crystal on the Continental is mineral. Was you really expecting anything else? If Seiko uses mineral for 3 times the price, why would Timex go the extra mile? Clarity is very good on this Timex, but I think the credit for that goes to the silver dial, because bright colored dials usually have better crystal clarity anyway. Now, the dial design is fine. It doesn't wow me or keep me coming back for more, but you know, it does the job. Some concentric circular finishing within the silver dial offers a splash of detail, and the applied indexes and Q logo add a little bit of a premium look. There is lume within the handset, and you know what? For a Timex, it's actually pretty good. It certainly doesn't compete with Indiglo, but then again, barely anything does. Water resistance on the Continental is 50 meters. This is the bare minimum for a sports watch in my opinion. 100 meters would have been ideal for this watch, which would have been the same as the PRX, but Timex says on their website that this watch can withstand some light swimming, so you can get this one wet. There have been a lot of watches released in this style over the past few years. I think for this price range you can pick up some very good looking Casio models, and those ones actually come with a piece of sapphire glass and an upgraded water resistance of 100 meters. And I think the design is a lot stronger on those edifice models too. Obviously you don't get this awesome GMT feature on those Casios, so that's certainly something to consider. But if we're just talking about design, I think those Casio models wipe the floor with the Continental. And for around £100, you can pick up some awesome Chinese watches. And let's not kid ourselves here. These Timex watches are for sure made in China, which is fine by the way, there's nothing wrong with that at all. But why not go straight to the source and get something that's built a little bit better? For example, for my next review, I'll be checking out this awesome little Baltony that's around about the same price. It has an automatic movement and a piece of sapphire. For me, it makes more sense to go there when you only have about £100 to spend. If this one didn't feature the GMT complication, especially the under the dial GMT complication, then for me, this would be just one of hundreds of Timex watches. But this unique GMT complication is something that I personally appreciate, but I do still think it's missing just a little bit of personality. So Timex had one last shot at redemption, and I think they've actually redeemed themselves a little bit. It's certainly like not the most appealing design out there, but it's a cool little piece from Timex. That GMT complication is something that you don't see often, and I can appreciate that it is very appealing to get a big brand name like Timex on the wrist for this kind of price. I am intrigued to see what Timex can do for a little bit more money, maybe £300. Maybe we should check one out on the channel. Thanks for watching, hope you enjoyed it. Catch you in the next video where we're going to check out that awesome little Baltony dress watch. See you then. Bye for now, guys.